Good morning, everybody. Thanks, everybody, for turning up. Really appreciate it. What I'm going to do today's session has got two parts to it. The first is my business story, and the second part is I'm going to try and do an interactive sounding board session, so sort of give you a flavour of what I actually do now. There'll be question and answer session after the business story, and then there'll be a question and answer session at the end as well. So if you have got questions, please hold on to them and I will answer them right at the end. So my business journey. As you can see on the slide, it took 18 years for me to get to where I ended up. I could have taken ages doing this talk. So what I've tried to do is stick to 6 major points that happened within that journey. And rather than showing you graphs and really dull stuff, I've tried to include some pictures so actually bring something to life. So my story started in 2000 when I joined William Hill. I was recruited to launch their first ever online casino, which I did. While I was there, we came across the online bingo product. I was requested to do a presentation to the board, which I did, recommended that they went with it, and they said no. I ended up leaving William Hill at the end of that year and started working as an online gaming consultant, because in those days, not a lot of people had a lot of experience in this. So, Kingdom of the Blind, I was the one-eyed man. So I was a consultant. Worked with people like Littlewoods, Victor Chandler's, Gala, people like that. Now, while I was doing that, I started talking to a friend of mine and said, do you know, you want to get into online bingo? That's going to be the next big thing. And then a couple of days later, I thought, hang on a minute, why am I telling somebody else to do that? I should be doing it. So I dusted off the presentation I'd done to William Hill, rehashed it slightly, and took it out, Dragon's Den style, to try and get some angel investment for £1 million startup. And I would have been the UK's first ever pay-to-play online bingo site. Now, there was a problem. Well, there were a number of problems. The first was there was no online bingo in the UK. So the first question obviously was, well, you know, why should we be doing that? You know, the big boys, Gala and Mecca, they're not doing it. So if it's going to be that brilliant, you know, surely they'd be doing it. The second issue was it was only around in the US, and in the US, it was legally grey. So it wasn't illegal and it wasn't legal. It was grey. And then the final thing, so I was taking this pitch out as a brand new online startup, right at the time the dot-com bubble was going to burst. So a product that nobody liked or nobody had heard of, a product that was legally grey, and a dot-com bubble about to burst. So, unsurprisingly, and this was what online bingo looked like in those days, and I actually took this round, and I've still got it as a printed copy on a piece of cardboard, because I wasn't doing a PowerPoint at the time. Unsurprisingly, I didn't get any response whatsoever. I got no backing at all. Now, what I'd done in the meantime, or in preparation for this talk, is I built a very, very basic website. That listed all the online bingo sites in the US at the time, and on it I'd put a very simple pop-up questionnaire to ask people all about their playing habits, so that when I did my presentation I would look like a fantastic expert at what I was talking about. And I've actually managed to find this. This is from a brilliant website called Wayback Machine that shows everybody's really, really old websites, and this is the actual pop-up. And actually the first version of my website. So what happened was, the bingo sites that were listed on this website started to ask if they could advertise on my website. Okay, you know, send me the money and we'll run some ads for you. And that was the business. That's how my business started. A complete and utter accident. Now, you probably all recognize this picture. This is Jeff Bezos. When he first started Amazon. This is Phil Fraser when he started his business. This picture was taken in 2001, I believe. And those of you who are very, very clever will see the top right-hand corner. That is the leg of an upturned bed. So this was my office in our spare bedroom with an upturned bed. So this is how the whole bingo story started. So we started getting more and more people contacting us, more and more people advertising with us, and we recruited freelancers, and the website grew, and we built another website. We actually built 2 or 3 websites because we were being so successful. And actually, one of the things I wanted to do as my strategy was to try and dominate the search engine listings, so that our site might be 1, 2, 3, and 4, but different sites. So wherever the traffic was coming, we'd get it. So that was the master plan, and that worked really, really well. And we got to the point where we were doing fine, and then one of my freelancers said, right, I'm quitting, I'm getting a proper job. And this was the first sort of key turning point for us. This was the point where we had to go, right, do we stick or twist on this? So we got an external consultant in, sort of showed him this business we had. It was the first time we'd ever showed it to anybody as a real proper grown-up business, and sort of, this is what it looks like, what do you think? And he said, go for it. You know, you've got a really good business, go for it. So I took what at the time was probably the scariest decision I'd ever made in my business life. And that was to take on an office and recruit 2 members of staff. Now, when you're running your own business, it's fine. If it works, great. If it doesn't work, you know, hard cheese. When you've got staff, it then becomes an issue, because you're then responsible for people's mortgages. You're responsible for, you know, their lives. So that actually was a really, really big first step. This is our office. So the two windows behind the pole, just above the flowers, that was our office. That's our first ever office. So 2005, did the big scary thing, got an office and some staff. At that time, we had a number of different websites. We'd actually just about launched the top one, which is WhichBingo UK. WhichBingo.com was our international site. Free Bingo was a free bingo game. And then the other sites were just more. And that was all going absolutely swimmingly until Friday, the 18th of November, 2006, when America passed something called the UIGEA, the Unlawful Internet Gaming Act, Enforcement Act. That wiped out 80% of our business overnight. That was on a Friday night. That was in the US. We spent the whole weekend deciding which of our then 3 staff we'd have to get rid of. That was a huge, huge point. 80% of the business wiped out. We actually decided in the end to go for it and keep the staff. And the market came to the UK, and we did really, really well. Around 2008, I'd got to the situation where I'd got a little bit bored of the business and thought about selling, and we'd had a few people asking, and actually we didn't in the end. But it drove us to our next external input. We got it was, you know, the business was floating along. I needed some extra input. So we got a consultant in. He introduced me to this book. Oh, sorry, that's UIGEA. He introduced me to this book, Good to Great by Jim Collins. And that little graph there is how you design a BHAG, a big, hairy, audacious goal. So that's what you can be deeply passionate about, what you can be best at, and what drives your resource. Now, Clive, who was the guy who came in, set us this BHAG to become the world's #1 source of online bingo players. Now, if you want a BHAG, a big, hairy, audacious goal, that's probably big, hairy, and audacious. We actually printed that off. That was on an A3 flip chart originally. We laminated it and stuck it on our meeting room wall. And that became our driving goal from there on in. And that was when we first became pretty single-minded. Now, that also started the process of me not extracting myself from the business, but letting go slightly, because one of the things that came out of the process we did with the consultant was that the business was over-reliant on me. Now that, I now know, sowed the seeds for me to be able to exit the business, because I started letting go. We recruited more staff, and we actually really, really powered on. But then we were hit by these 2 cute little animals, the Google Panda and the Google Penguin. Those of you who are in the online world will know what these were. These were updates on the algorithms of Google, changed all the way the SERPs worked, and we, you know, having put a lot of effort and a lot of time into SEO, got hammered by these two, as a lot of people did. So that again was another dip in the journey. And in fact, it affected us for probably a year until we really got our act back together. In the meantime, we actually acquired a competitor because they had very good search engine rankings. So if we couldn't be there, we got somebody else to be there with us, and that again increased our portfolio of websites. And then around 2011, 2012, I mentioned this previously, I really had started getting, and it's not meant to sound arrogant, but sort of got bored with the business. It was doing okay, it was running nicely. I'd started letting go, so we made the very big decision to put the business up for sale. And that in itself was a big decision. So we went out to the market, we went with a business broker, a business consultant, and took it out to market. But we actually had two plans at the time. Plan A was obviously selling. Plan B was to bring somebody else in to run it for me. We actually got we got an okay offer, and we spent a very long Easter bank holiday weekend, I remember it being Easter, debating whether or not to sell. And in the end, we got cold feet and said, right, we're not selling, we'll go with plan B. Business broker wasn't very happy and got very upset about that. But we went with plan B, and plan B was to get somebody in to help run the business. And again, this was one of those big steps that you look back in time and go, right, okay, this was one of the big steps that made it possible for us to sell the business. And this guy, Simon Jones, came in as my commercial director. And I remember when we did the interview, one of the things he said to me was, are you willing to let go? You know, he didn't just want to come in and do the work I wanted to do. He wanted to do stuff. And I said, yes. And actually that was brilliant, because what Simon was able to do was to bring new life into the business, new ideas into the business, challenge me, question the strategy, and really make us really drive forward. And that started a process of becoming a lot more professional, a lot more work on our positioning and our branding. We produced the first industry report. You can see on our left, the Online Bingo Annual Report. The middle bit is a screenshot from our TV ad. We appeared on national TV. I was going to try and run you the ad, but I wasn't sure of the tech on this. And then in the right-hand corner, we launched our own industry awards, which again was great for our branding and our positioning. And those of you who are of a certain age will recognise that that's Kerry Katona. She had a bingo site called Bingo with Kerry, or Play Bingo with Kerry, or something like that, and she won one of our awards. So that was fantastic. I get to meet Kerry Katona, fantastic. But brilliant PR. So our brand was really pushing forward. And what happened was we got to the point where Simon and I were sort of constantly discussing the strategy and where we were going. We had tons and tons of ideas as to what to do. And again, another key point in the journey, we brought a third-party consultant in, this guy, Mark Prince, highly recommend him, do almost a review of the whole business. And one of the key things he did with us was he actually sat down with the whole team and asked them all about the business. What was good, what was bad, what we should stop doing, what we should start doing, all that sort of stuff. And the stuff that came out of that and the strategy we put in place was like the last piece in the jigsaw. And some of these stuff I was told by my team was fascinating. One of the key things I was told, and those of you who run your own businesses and those of you who are entrepreneurs will recognize this immediately. I was told to keep my bloody nose out of the business and stop messing around with things and stop coming in a Monday morning with, fantastic, we've got this brilliant new idea, this is what we're going to do. Only for 3 weeks later to then do something else. And then ask them, why haven't we done that on the main business? Well, we were doing the fantastic project you told us about last week. Well, no, we're not doing that anymore. So I was told, you have to stop doing that. And actually, one of the things that came out of this was I actually created a second company to put my brilliant new ideas in and run those. So I was kept out of the main business. The second thing was to drop our long-standing strategy of lots and lots of different sites and basically concentrate on one brand. So we actually rebranded the company and we just called the company Which Bingo. And we got rid of the free bingo site, we sold that. We got rid of some of the bingo skins, we sold that. And we concentrated purely and simply on one product. And the other thing that Mark did, and again, this is part of the journey to be able to sell, was he made us implement a process of recording performance on, I think we had 8 different parameters on a weekly basis. Now, we'd never done that before. And again, those of you who run your own businesses, particularly on the smaller side, you tend not to do that because you don't need to, because it's your business and you just speak to somebody and find this figure or that figure. And you might look at your cash flow or you might look at your management accounts, but you don't need to do lots and lots of reporting. But we started doing that. So what Mark did was he really took us up the next level. So again, another external input for us. And then, sort of the end of the story, as it were, 2007, we got approached. The industry we were in, there was lots and lots of consolidators at the time. Summer of 2017, we were approached by somebody who said, "We want to give you lots of money for your business." Now, I'd always been of the view that eventually, if somebody gives us enough money, happily sell the business. Although we weren't proactive for sale, they came along, said, "We want to sell you. We want to give you this much money." Wow, that's enough money. Thank you very much. So we went down to London to meet them, and when we met them, that huge amount of money had a lot of yes, but, maybe, perhaps caveats in, and actually wasn't the figure that we thought it was, which is a bit disappointing. So what we did, and as I say, it was quite a small industry we're in. I contacted all the main consolidators and said, "Look, we're not for sale, but somebody's talking to us, and now might be a good time to talk to us if you're interested." And one of them came back, made us a very good offer, not as good as the first one, but the first one wasn't a real offer anyway, and we agreed to sell. And we got to the week before signing heads of terms, and one of the other consolidators came back and said, "We said we weren't interested. Well, we are." So I was in a bit of a predicament. Now, I'm a man of my word. I don't like going against it. I said, "Look, we're talking to these guys. If you want me to change horse, you have to move the dial considerably, and you have to put together a better package for me," which they did. And interestingly, I did the deal with the CEO pretty much over the phone and a couple of emails. And actually, it then took another 4 months, 4 months for the lawyers to get involved and everything else. There were lots and lots of complications. They were a non-UK PLC, which made some of the legal bits complicated. They had a finance department, a sales department, and a strategic department, all wanted to put their 10 pence into the heads of terms, which made it just hugely complicated. We also had an issue with the fact they didn't want any of our staff, which I know is a weird thing, but they didn't. Which gave me the situation on the 8th of April 2017, probably the hardest thing I've ever had to do. Because I had to walk into my team, I think we had 14 at the time, in a meeting room, all together, and say, "Hey guys, I've sold the business, woohoo, and you're all losing your jobs in 3 months' time." And that was probably the hardest thing I've ever done. It all worked out fine in the end because most of them they all ended up getting bonuses and they all ended up getting jobs after 3 months, so it actually was fine. And a lot of them, I stayed in contact with many of them, and probably a week after we had that horrible meeting, a number of them came into my office and said, "Phil, you've done the right decision, and I'm just really sad that I can't work here anymore." And that was how it looked like in the news. I know there's a couple of people on here who are part of the online gaming community. They probably woke up and saw that I went, "Holy shit, what's happened?" And that's 18 years of startup to kitchen table startup to PLC sale story. So